Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Wellborn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source. Okay, Lynda is back this week. She's got some questions for Wa-Na-Nee-Che because I've got a minging headache and I can't think of any questions right now. So I'm going to disappear. I will come back in at the end. But as you see, Lynda is here and she's done the meditation CD. And from that, she's been able to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che questions. So if you go to Human Circle of Life, fill in your details, you can have the meditation for free, and then you might be able to pop on one day on the show and ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question. I'm going to pop out now and hand over to Lynda. I'm just going to change the view to speaker view, and I'm going to shut up now.
Hi, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. How are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, except it's the afternoon.
And a big hello to our listeners. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly remind you of something that you would like to discuss tonight. Um, I wanted to remind you about a visit that you had from the energies.
Mhm.
It was very important information, all about mind control. And you asked me to remind you about this to see if we could jolt your imagination to go back to when this visit happened. I'm not sure how long ago this happened.
Well, it was strange because I was in a conversation with, of course, the energies that took human form, and it seemed like I was there for hours, and we were talking about almost everything. And one of the things that we were discussing is the word spiritual, spirit, and how it is utilized in a wrong way in order to control the minds of human beings.
Mhm.
When we look at the word spirit, spirit is something that has never left the earth. It roams the earth. It has not become energy. So, but yet, when you look at society, everything that they refer to is referred to a way of controlling your thoughts and the way you think. Connect to spiritual self. So you're alive, you're not a spirit yet. So how can you connect to your spiritual self? The other thing is too, is they always say, find your spirituality. So the questions I was asking was that the word spirit himself is taken out of context and it's utilized more or less to control how we think, how we behave. So when you go to all your religions, they base a lot of their information and a lot of their control on spiritual activity. So we need to basically take a look at what spirit means to us as individuals. To me, spirit means one who has not gone home, that has not become energy, and they roam the earth. And they'll appear to you at night sometimes. When you wake up, they'll be standing there. And it seems like ever since I learned how to open a doorway, they seem to be hanging around my room. And I have to always sit there and say, look, I have a Mother Earth Lodge out there. The doorway is open. Go to it. Don't come in here because I'm not going to get up, go to the lodge, and bring you in. I said, that's your responsibility. But at that particular time, that's spiritual connection. What we have to do is we have to get away from that mind control situation and go back into the essence of what we are, who we are. We're a body, we're a form. We have certain parts within our body that basically the body, the mind, and all the other little functions. So that's why we say mind, body, but then we say spirit. And then again, the spirit is at the bottom again. What I need people to start to understand that it is better to connect by utilizing your energy connection.
I
Because
think before Oh, sorry. Before you go on to say too much more, I've got a couple of points to raise before I lose them.
Okay.
Just some clarity on things. I think when when they talk about connecting to their spiritual self, I think what they mean is about connecting. And so that explains that to me.
Yeah.
Um, and when you talk about spirits that roam the earth, I mean, when we've had our conversations before, you've said it's because they've missed their doorway. Is that what you're referring to? They've missed their doorway, so they're trapped on the earth plane.
For certain reasons, one, basically because they don't want to leave the earth. Say they were very greedy people, so they
Mhm.
don't want to leave their money to anybody. They want to stay on the earth plane. Other spirits get trapped because of their loved ones. They care so much for them, they're worried so much about them that they miss their doorway. So there's many different reasons why spirits walk the earth. But the whole idea comes down to terminology becomes very, very important. Now, to show you how language can play an important role, somebody sits there and they say, please don't slam the door. What are the last two words you hear? Slam the door. You don't hear, please don't. All you hear is slam the door. So the English language in some cases are focused on the point that they allow us to focus on the last two words that they say, which again has no meaning of what they want done. It's like you say, go do that. And you go look at them, do what? Well, go do it. Well, how are you going to do it if it's not explained on what you're supposed to do? So we get tied up into not completely connecting to what we want. Now, within our bodies, we have what we call the energy, the life force energy. And that life force energy is into every living thing. And people don't seem to realize that when I was in the Catholic Church as an altar boy, I asked a question one time for one of the nuns. And I said, who made you? She looked at me and said, well, God made us. I said, well, then who made the trees? God made the trees. Who made the animals? God made the animals. Who made the earth? God made the earth. I said, then if God made everything, then his life force energy is in everything. So
Yeah, you repeated that.
therefore, we're all related.
Yeah,
I
we
said,
talked about this. We talked about this recently.
yeah.
Just
So
saying.
people, all of a sudden, they become the most important thing.
Mm.
And they forget about the other energies that were created. And the other energies, you've got to remember, the human beings were the last one to be basically put on the earth. All the animals
So
were gone before us.
yeah, so let's get back to the subject. So when you said that sometimes you wake up and see spirits around you, these are spirits that are trapped on the earth.
Mhm.
In our conversations before, you've said to me that you can create a doorway and send them home.
Yeah,
So why would you not want to do that right now and say to them, go to the lodge and your doorway's there?
it's like they said, I'm sleeping. And I need my sleep. So a lot of times, when they come and they bother you, I mean, some of them can actually physically touch you. And
Yeah,
they're
I
always,
think it's important.
yeah, sometimes I'm sitting there, they hit my foot to wake me up.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
when you're in a deep sleep and you want to get your rest and they wake you up right and sleep, it goes like that. It's like Matthew sometimes when he would have a vision or something. He'd come in my room and he'd turn the light on and he said, are you awake? Oh, of course I'm awake now.
I
So,
think it's probably important to tell the listeners that you have to reach a certain spiritual state before you start seeing spirits so that not to alarm anyone.
well, that's one way.
Um,
The other thing is that the energy can call you into a vision, and you can be wide awake at the time. And all of a
mhm,
sudden they say, okay, it's time for us to show you something. It's
mhm.
like when I was driving back from Albuquerque, and we were like 70 miles out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I'm driving, all of a sudden the energy said, hey, we want to show you something. Boom, I'm gone. I'm still in the car. The car's still running. And they took me to a place where they showed me and instructed me on a sacred song. So when I came out into this world, I was singing it. And I sat there. When I went into that vision, it was 170 miles to Colorado Springs. When I came out of the vision, I passed a sign that said Colorado Springs 10 miles. But while I was in that vision, they made sure that I was safe. Maybe my spirit wasn't there, but my mind was still there. So therefore, I kept it on the road.
Mm-hmm.
They can call you into a vision and you could just be doing something and boom, you're gone. Other times when you're sleeping, your body will release your energy and your energy will go to places. And in these places, they will start teaching you who you are. In a lot of cases, the wolf is usually the first energy that will come to you. And they will start you on your pathway. And sometimes you'll follow the wolf, and the wolf is running, and you're following the wolf. You're not running. All of a sudden, you look down, and your feet are off the ground. And you're just like you're attached to its tail. So it takes you to place. But when people get the wolf in their visions, right away they want to claim the wolf. The wolf is a teacher. It doesn't mean that he's your how you say your energy. It's just your teacher at that particular time. And you need to sit there and let him take you and show you things so that you can advance to the next stage. It's just like the idea when you start to get into your power, when you start to get into who you are, something will happen. And you will be forced to react. You'll get angry. And sometimes if there's somebody there that you're protecting, your life becomes more, and I won't say your life is more important, their life becomes more important. So then you protect them. And when you protect them, whatever's out there coming at them, you focus on them and you destroy them. And that's an indication that you're using your power. The power that you were given, your candle, your extension of that candle. And then that's when your pathway actually starts, when you start realizing you have the power to stop things. But what get back now to the mind control stuff is that terminology again is very important. We have to take and look at the life force energy. When you look at people who have the chakras, they'll talk about 7 chakras. There are 15 chakras that go beyond the top of your head. Some people are meant to go further, but again, because there's only 7 and there was only 7 taught, how are you going to reach the next 8 if you don't realize they exist? So again, control. They don't want you to see it, and that's why you always see mind, body, spirit. Well, the spirit, we should start using the terminology energy, because it's your life force energy that has to go to the top. So it's life force energy, mind, body. Because then when we do that exercise where I put my hand over a person's head and I open their head and you feel the air coming out. And then when I use the energy that I call upon, that comes when I call, it goes into your head. You feel the heat going down into you. So again, in order for you to balance, the energy has to be on the top. But because the life force energy is in the base of your spine, you got to learn how to bring it up, how to bring it and circulate so that it opens up your channels to the energies that want to help you.
Can I just ask you, this energy exercise we're talking about, Does the energy, I know it's changing the subject slightly. Does the energy come up from the kundalini area that we talked about before? And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the kundalini, again, when you look at kundalini, it's a name that has been given to it by humans. Everything that we practice, it has a name that has been given by humans. So that, well, who gives it? People who give it to you control it. So again, they sit there and they instruct you and they teach you how to utilize it, which again is control. They're in control. And the whole idea is that energy is energy. Don't give it a name. It's like when I was working on a Reiki master, a true Reiki master. And when I went through the ceremony with her, and when I got done with it, she said, "Are you a Reiki master?" I said, "No." She said, "Yeah, but you did everything that a Reiki master does." I said, "No, I followed the energies. The energies instructed me what to do." So again, don't give it a name. If they want you to know, they will tell you what type of energy they are, what type of energy within the 144,000 candles that has come to you.
So where I was going with that is it's just because I'd heard that the kundalini energy is stored at the bottom of the spine, and I'd read somewhere that you need guidance or help to release it.
Mm-hmm. And where does it go? It goes to number
I'm
7.
get that was a question to you, but my guess would be up the spine, up
Yeah.
to the crown chakra, out through the crown chakra.
And
Well, let's talk about a little bit about what kundalini energy is in terms of, is it different from our life force energy, or is it our life force energy?
it's just that they give it a different name.
So it's life force energy.
Life force energy. That's what the people have to start realizing. It's the life force energy. And once we can connect with it and we understand the power of it, then we can circulate it. And like I said, when our body can no longer hold, what leaves? The life force energy. So your body may no longer continue, your brain no longer continue, but the energy does. And that's what
Mhm.
basically, again, there's been a lot of news coming out of people who have passed on. And they use the word, we died for 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, they see things that when they come back, they say the real reality is when we leave this world. And our energy goes back to the source of the energy. And they all seem to have the same interpretation about energy and about the form of energy. So we have to stop giving names to it. And we need to basically become the energy that we are supposed to focus on. That's why it's so important for people to join the human circle of life, because the human circle of life is the sacred hoop. And I didn't realize that until one of the elders in the Hopi had a prophecy saying that one day the 4 colors will come together: the red, the yellow, the black, and the white. And I looked at my symbol of the human circle of life. It's the 4 colors coming together as one in the center. And then once it gets to the center, the hoop is fixed. But again, mind control keeps people from discovering who they are. They go to places and they're taught to be things. There is no such thing as shamans again. Shamans is, again, a word that was utilized to give somebody who has special powers. But if you have a special power, it doesn't belong to anybody else. It only belongs to you. But then you start to find people who are on the same pathway. So therefore, they are connected with that particular energy. But wherever place you go, people want to train you. They want to teach you how to become something that takes you away from who you really are. And we need to focus on the fact that, number one, we need to find out who we are before we can truly find and understand what the life force energy means to us.
And the Journey CD is a tool to help you find who you really are.
It's a tool to deaden the mind, so that your energy will take control, and the mind basically, again, steps back. And that's why a lot of people don't realize how powerful that CD can be. But don't try to interpret yourself until you learn how to interpret. Because when you look at things, it's just like when we did that one journey thing, and the first thing I second guessed myself when the first thing that came up was there was a problem with the mother. And after I sat there for a while and I talked to you about that, and you said you were spot on. So then I understood that my interpretation, I had to go back and not think, but allow the pictures to form. And that's a mistake that we make when we listen to the CD, is that we will interpret the way we want to see it, not the way it's meant for us to see it. Because the CD is utilized to take things out of your subconscious that control you, the mind control, so that the brain releases and the energy takes its place above the head.
Okay. Going back to what we were talking about, the word spirit in relation to the word energy, but my thought was, but we're told that we've got a spirit, we are a spirit and we are a soul. We've got a soul, we've got a spirit. And the word spirit, I've always felt has a really good vibration. It feels good to say that word. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, don't you think it feels good because you've been programmed? Every time you turn around, everybody says spirit, 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 spirit. All of a sudden say, wow, that's a powerful word.
No, I really mean saying the word spirit to me, and even spiritual, it's a word that makes me feel good.
But who invented the word spiritual?
I couldn't answer that.
Religion.
Mhm.
Because religion, again, when you look at governments base their whole existence on religious ideas. They learned how to control people because religion controlled people. So therefore, they borrowed things from religions in order to control the public. It's just like we said, one person has a whip, and here's 1,000 slaves, and he sits there on his authority where he's let 1,000 people do exactly what he tells them to do. Well, what happens if then those 1,000 people rebel? Is that whip going to hit all 1,000 of them at one time? Or is it just going to hit one of them and the rest of them are going to overwhelm them? So when we look, again, we have to, and people will sit there and discuss things with you about spirituality, and all this stuff. But when you come down to, and you take it and you disassemble it, it comes back. And once it's disassembled, it comes back to your connection with the energies. And people need to get back to the word energies, the life force energies. Because in order to connect to the energies, you have to understand the energies. And then you find out who you are. And it's like my dad was the one that taught me that lesson, where he had a gift. And when I asked him if he could teach me that gift, he said, okay, watch what I'm doing. So when it got down to the fact that, number one, he said, can you see the energy coming from my hand when I put it over a herb? And I said, no. Then he said, then this energy is not for you. And I cannot teach you this energy because it's my energy. And it's not part of you. When you grow older, he said, your energy will be revealed to you. He said, just don't let the mind get in control, because the mind will not let you see your energy, because the mind doesn't want to lose the power. If the mind is so powerful, how come it stays in the head when you pass on, and only the energy leaves? So that's the power, is the energy. The energy holds the whole essence of who you are. It holds the memory of who you are. So when you pass on, you know who you are. You actually look at your body before you ascend. And a lot of people are scared when they do it. A lot of people, if they understand the energy world, they're happy because they're going home. They don't have to suffer in purgatory anymore, which is the earth.
Going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier about spirits that are roaming the earth that have missed their doorway, what actually happens to them? I mean, can you be roaming the earth for years and not ever find your doorway to the energy world?
Well, when I was in Scotland and I had a room, and in the middle of the night, I was woken up. And there was clanging, horses, everything, and like something was outside passing. And about the second night, and again it happened. And I woke up, and Joyce and her husband were downstairs. So I said, "Can I ask you a question?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "For the last 2 nights now, I've been woken up by clamoring horses, almost like people marching." And Joyce and her husband started laughing. They said, "It was the main route that Wallace used to move his army to the south." So again, they were spirits because of what happened to them in war. War is a tragedy. And if something happens to you in the war, you cannot come to the reality that you're no longer part of the earth. You're stuck. And there's a lot of energies that go on, but there's a lot of spirits that don't. That's why I tell people when you walk into a graveyard, there are spirits there that haven't gone home. And if you happen to touch one, you get their memory. But
Yes.
it doesn't mean a past life. It just means you get their memory. I always say, I'll go to the graveyard so I can touch somebody, and then he can tell me where all the gold is hidden.
So, but my question also was, what happens to these spirits? Do they eventually find a doorway home?
Well, there are those, like I said, that stay on the earth for a good reason. And when they finally realize that they can go home, they want to go home. Because what gets kept them here, they're no longer here. Their loved ones are gone, they're passed on. And a lot of them don't stay here, they go on. So they're left here by themselves. So a lot of them bug you because they want to go home. And that's why you open up the doorway for them and you allow them to go home. But there are, like I said, there are evil spirits, and there are good spirits. The evil spirits are still trying to control you so that you will do their bidding. And we had, I know, 2 incidents. I know there's an individual, I won't make names, but he goes into houses to get rid of spirits. But the thing is that you have to find out why the reason they're trapped here. When I went into this one house in Ireland, and I sat there, and this little boy was mean. He would bite his mother. He would hit his mother. Every time she tried to cuddle him out, he would had nothing that wanted nothing to do with it. So I observed that, and so I went and I walked by the rooms, and all of a sudden, one of the doors were open, and I looked, and there was a little girl, and the little girl was angry, and her anger floated onto the little boy. So I sat there and I said, "Why are you angry?" She said, "My dad promised to come back for me, and he never returned." I said, "Darling, your dad wanted to return, but he was killed." This was in World War I. So that little girl had been there since World War I. And I said, "He couldn't come back because he was killed overseas. She kind of looked at me kind of funny. I said, "You miss him?" She said, "Yeah." And it's kind of hard to talk about because I started getting emotional again about it. And I said, "You love him?" And she said, "Yes, I love him." And I said, "Look behind you." And she looked behind you, and a doorway formed. He walked out of the doorway. And she ran to him. And they went through the doorway together.
Oh.
And when the doorway closed, I came out of the room and walked back, and the little boy had went running to his mother, hugged her, and started kissing her. So that's how things happen sometimes, but you got to find out why they're there. And then when you sit there and you show them that they're angry for no reason, and that there was a purpose why the dad or whatever loved one didn't come back. But a lot of people go in there and they do their little ceremony to get rid of them. Will Sampson did that on Poltergeist, and it came back to haunt him, and it killed him. Because these energies are trying to tell him there's something wrong with the movie, and it needs to be corrected. And the most simplest thing in that movie was what? Don't go into the light. So it was a negative words that basically that the movie was not supposed to be saying something like that. Because when we pass on, we go into the light. But the movie was saying, don't go into the light. So how many people were influenced by that so that when they passed on, they didn't go into the light?
Stuart has returned.
Yeah.
How are we doing for time, Stuart?
Sadly, we have got 1 minute left. That's why I've popped back. I didn't want to interrupt him there because it was an emotional story. I could see he was welling up a little bit there. But if you've got anything left to say, we're probably just going to disappear. So, Lynda, is there anything you want to say very quickly?
No, I think it was got some questions answered tonight. We got some good information through, and yeah, it was I enjoyed it.
Good.
Live long and prosperous.
Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.